And welcome back to coverage here of the Innistrad Championship. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. Now, Paul, I know you like your food.
Oh, yeah.
And so do I. And we're going to get a lot of it this round because we've got a food mirror coming up here in our lower round 3. Down in the feature, we have 2 players battling out for the chance to make it to the lower finals against Riku Kumagai. That is Toru Saito that you see on your screen right now. Yuuki Ichikawa is the opponent this round. And once again, we are in elimination time here in our top 8. So winner's going to advance to play against Riku. Loser's going to have to pack it in and call it a tournament. And it is a food mirror, so settle in nicely here at home. These ones can take a little while.
Yeah, this one might take a while. If both players just, I'm going to say, have kind of some average draws with Trail of Crumbs and Cat Oven going, there is no real great way to break that stall. And as we saw kind of in that previous replay, which Monty so eloquently cast by himself, a lot of stuff happens. A lot of triggers will go on the stack. Lots of food, lots of kitties in the oven. Life totals won't change very much. And so one other thing that these players might need to consider is the amount of time that they have on the clock when game 1 is over.
I kind of want to phone a friend here for Monty, where if it gets really complicated, we can just hit a button, he'll appear, and we can just kind of sit back and let him
And
do
then
his thing.
he'll come in and be like, I'm off this. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah. Calling in the reinforcements. You can see, as you mentioned, the clock could be very important here, but it doesn't look that way, at least to Yuki. He's taking his time on land drop number 1. He's come to the conclusion to play a black mana source and a fatal push for the Gilded Goose. Could have gone green mana source and his own fatal push, or even a squirrel or an oven. Wow, that's a lot of 1-drops. In fact, all 1 mana cards here for Yuuki Ichikawa in the opener.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing with this deck. The average curve is so low. Every hand kind of looks the same, right? You just have a bunch of 1-drops. You got some Deadly Disputes, and ultimately what you're really trying to do is find Trail of Crumbs and then leverage the card advantage from that to kind of take over the game.
Hey, Cauldron Familiar plus Witch's Oven. That's exactly where you want to be with these type of decks, and Yuuki Ichikawa is the first one to get those 2 cards on board. And wow, is the best that Toru can do for the turn put Luris in the hand? No, it's going to be Ravenous Squirrel and Deadly Dispute. Send that that Shambling Ghast into the yard on the sacrifice. It's going to net a treasure token here for Toru as well. Finds, well, another Gilded Goose, or excuse me, I should just say a Gilded Goose as well as a Deadly Dispute.
Yeah, so this squirrel can potentially be gigantic here. We got 2 treasures already in play. And you can Deadly Dispute, sacrifice the plant token here, and make it grow even more. The problem is, Cat Oven is already online, right?
That's right.
So
it's never going to get in.
It's never getting through. Yuuki just always has a blocker available here. So really, I mean, this squirrel can become as big as it wants to be, but it's going to be really tough for Toru to actually force damage through with the squirrel, unless he can somehow find a way to Soul Guide Lantern the cat away from the graveyard, but that seems very difficult to pull off.
Here's Deadly Dispute, sacrificing the Ravenous Squirrel.
What if this deck gets so popular that they decide to play maybe 1 copy of Rogue's Passage or something?
Just to get the 1 shot with the Ravenous Squirrel?
Just find a way to finish people off with the Ravenous Squirrel.
I love it. It's a combo deck now, right?
Yeah.
All right, a pair of geese hit the battlefield here, and there's food to go around. 3 foods, 3 treasures here for Saito, and Ichikawa has 2 foods and a Witch's Oven to go with Gilded Goose, Ravenous Squirrel, and in the graveyard, a Cauldron Familiar as well. All right, 1 food's going to get sacrificed. Cake. Start with cake, Paul. Cake goes in.
Cake goes in. Okay, is it my turn?
It's going to be your turn next, yeah.
Well, if he does, nope, not yet.
Yeah, so
I had one queued up, though. Now, Yuuki, he's got Cat Oven. However, he doesn't have Trail of Crumbs. He's not developing his board. He only has 2 lands in play. So while he can prevent this squirrel from getting in, Toru's the one that's got the massive mana advantage. And he can utilize that to start sacrificing some of those artifacts to the squirrel to draw cards and continue to just build on his board.
Yeah, I mean, just look at sheer number of permanents. Right?
Yeah.
3 creatures, 6 tokens, 4 lands here for Saito. He's done some work this game already. All right, Ravenous Squirrel's going to eat a...
Food, I believe.
No, come on, Paul. Come on.
Let's go with pizza.
All right, going to eat a
Starting
pizza.
easy.
And it's actually going to crash in here, too. Ravenous indeed, but this mana issues here for Yuuki Ichikawa are going to really start to punish him here, especially with his hand. Double Massacre, and just can't really do much with it.
Yeah, and Toru, I mean, no real great block here, right? He could choose to maybe chump block here. I mean, he is concerned because given that he's pretty... Oh, no, excuse me. He can sack a bunch of food and treasure to grow this Ravenous Squirrel. I feel like Toru's Squirrel might get bigger here. Let's see. We can go 7/7 Squirrel for Yuuki, right? Because we have Cat Oven going.
Yes.
There are a bunch of treasures in play, however, from Toru's side. So we can, let's see, go 6/6 and then sack a food to make it into a 7/7. Oh, so it would be a trade.
Oh, but instead the squirrel just gets eaten here for Yuuki as he shakes his head, and Saito clearing out those treasures really earns himself a bit of a blowout.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that was the only meaningful threat that Ichikawa had on the board here. Now, again, Toru not able to make headway this turn, but again, I mean, we're just at that point where Toru can start sacrificing the food for resources here, for cards.
Shambling Ghast on the battlefield now for Saito. He's got a clean attack here with the squirrel. Now, the Cauldron Familiar likely will just jump in front and get sacrificed to the Witch's Oven. Is there anything good to get back with Lurrus next turn? Well, or I guess it could be this turn. A treasure.
Yeah, could
+1/+1 counter. And enough mana to cast Lurrus right now. Jeez, this is aggressive here from Saito.
Can play the Shambling Ghast that was sacrificed. We do have a Gilded Goose in play. And there's another Gilded Goose in the yard.
So could just do both.
This is
all right.
This
a
squirrel
pair
is
is going to get eaten up by the Gilded Goose. And another goose.
Well, so keep in mind though, if Yuuki can find a land, that's a Meathook Massacre that can wipe the board here, right? I mean, all the geese, the Ghast, the Familiar, and the Lurrus would all go down.
And then the opposing Familiar would be there for the squirrel.
Right, you would have the Cauldron Familiar still available. So,
man, finding a land's a lot harder than you'd think it would be.
Right.
Ooh, Witch's Oven off the top though for Saito.
Big draw.
And now all of a sudden he's got the engine rolling. And both Shambling Ghast and Cauldron Familiar into the red zone, plus Ravenous Squirrel, which has gotten completely out of hand. It's a 10-10.
Yeah, and Yuuki just wanting to make sure that he can get mana source number 4 here, get a treasure here from Shambling Ghast so he can cast this Meathook for 2. Doesn't need to return the cat this turn. Oh. Okay. Yeah, this makes sense. Toru recognizing that, okay, Meathook Massacre for 2 is how you get me. So I'm gonna kill your Gilded Goose here.
Jeez. Such heads-up play here.
Phyrexian Tower now is the card that Yuuki really needs off the top. Because if that happens... Oh, excuse me, there's a treasure in play, so still just needs a land. Any land would do.
Okay. This is going to be a Soul Guide Lantern, which I suppose forces the issue on the Familiar here.
Yeah, I imagine... Well, I guess you could just go for something else just because you know that you won't be able to get the Familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you want to force that
doesn't
action.
even need to do it. Yeah, you can make that happen now, but what does that get you? I'm not really sure. There's
Right.
2 food over there. All right, he's going to force the issue. So Hamburger gets eaten by the Cauldron Familiar. It's going to hit the
Hamburger,
battlefield.
okay.
Yeah. It
Darn
was.
easy. That's a land.
Okay. Mana source number 4, land number 3 here for Ichikawa.
And the way that you want to do it is cast Meat Hook Massacre for 2, let it enter the battlefield while it's on the stack. You want to sacrifice your Cauldron Familiar so that you get that trigger, that static trigger that's on the Meat Hook Massacre.
That's right. And again, this is not going to be enough to kill the Ravenous Squirrel. Not even close. But right now, Ichikawa's not scheduled to take damage from the Ravenous Squirrel thanks to the Familiar and Oven.
Oh, but hold on here. So we go Meat Hook Massacre.
Okay.
And if Yuuki sacrifices the Cauldron Familiar, can Toru respond with Soul Guide Lantern? So let's say this goes in the yard. The second food is not in play yet, right? That triggers on the stack. You sack the Soul Guide Lantern, then you force the cat to come back into play, but then Meat Hook Massacre resolves. Oh, but I guess...
Well, then it's gone and no food, but yeah.
Yeah, but you're down to the food. Okay. Does Toru want to fire off the Soul Guide Lantern here?
Lets it happen.
Yeah, I guess it's not going to matter.
The redundant food would mean that that thing can just come back, yeah.
I'm just waiting for the food sacrifice, to be honest here. Got to make this interesting.
We have to do something to make it interesting.
Oh!
Ooh, Fatal Push.
But we have 2 food in play.
Right.
So...
Still, you know, we're starting to look for ways just to get this squirrel in once or twice, because that's all it's going to take, even if the combo's in place.
Oh, actually, what you can do here is when you sack the food to return the Cauldron Familiar, you respond by Soul Guide Lanterning. Then you have to sack the other food. Then the cat comes into play. You can push the cat and then get in for an attack this turn. So I don't know how close Saito is here. We have the Familiar, but he might be able to finish this off this turn.
Well, the cat looks hungry.
Did he not? Oh, maybe he sees that he could have gotten an attack in here with the squirrel. I mean, a chance to get in for 15 or 16 points of damage to the point where then once you find a Meat Hook Massacre, you can just drain your opponent out very easily from that point on, right?
Yeah, that was strange.
Again, there's lots of triggers, and these players are extremely familiar with their decks, so it's very possible that I missed something there. But the Shawarma gets sacrificed here.
Oh, very nice.
For this Cauldron Familiar to get a block in.
Fatal Push save for Luris perhaps as well. That's a nice target to have. Okay, Cauldron Familiar number 2 goes on the stack. 21 life total here for Ichikawa. Saito's down to 16. And to land off the top. So Tomato's going to get sacrificed to Cauldron Familiar. That's going to put yet another counter on the squirrel.
And now just looking to find some cards here. I mean, it feels like Yuki's stabilized, right? I mean, Toru's no longer got that insane permanent advantage. Sacrificed most of the food and treasure that he had available here.
Right. Also worth noting that Ichikawa's the one with Meat Hook Massacre for that static ability on the battlefield. And here's Fatal Push now finally going on the stack. It's going to take out Luris, which is going to get ovened here. And a 1919 Ravenous Squirrel just stays home.
So huge.
Colony Garden off the top of the library.
I mean, not a whole lot you can do if you're Yuuki Ichikawa here, right? I mean, you're just You're just cat ovening until you can find that trail. Would like to draw his own copy of Ravenous Squirrel.
I want that Rogue's Passage tech that you talked about, Paul. That's...
Oh yeah, no, that's for next week. Yeah, and it looks like Pad Thai has been sacked here for Cauldron Familiar.
Ravenous Squirrel's going to pick up a couple more counters. It's at 21-21 at this point. And Cauldron Familiar is going to eat the French fries and put even more counters on the squirrel. It's actually a lethal attacker now, but doesn't have a way to get in.
Right, because, I mean, the squirrel just gets blocked by the familiar here, so... I mean, maybe this, the draining here slowly adds up, but we still got a long way to go.
Colony Garden, Soul Guide, Lantern, Phyrexian Tower in hand here for Saito.
Might even just be interested in cycling this Soul Guide Lantern.
Only one card in the yard there for Ichikawa, so may as well take Luris out of the equation. And yeah, you were right, Paul. He's just going to sacrifice it straight away. 24-24 Squirrel. Now a second Witch's Oven.
Well,
one for each familiar.
Let's settle in here, folks.
My goodness sakes.
We've got a long game one ahead of us. Not a whole lot either side can do here to really break this stalemate, if you will. Oh, big draw. Big draw. There it is.
Crumbs, and both players are smiling for very different reasons here.
All right, Baguette goes in the yard here for a Trail of Crumbs activation.
And we're going to get used to this because this Trail of Crumbs is going to dominate. Ramen in the bin.
Oof.
For Cauldron Familiar. Oh,
Nice.
It's just a land though. Oh, God. This is going to get completely out of hand, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, Toru, the only thing you can do is just, sack the spaghetti here, gain a life, drain. But, I mean, now Yuki's the one who's got the advantage, right? You've got the Trail of Crumbs going with the Meat Hook Massacre.
That cat almost came back in, but doesn't. Now, though, it's going to sack the pudding. Get another counter on the squirrel. Does it matter how big the squirrel is at this point?
It absolutely does not. There's just no way that it actually gets through. That's the problem.
It could be 1,000, right?
Yeah. And that's what we saw in that previous replay. Both sides just had 30-plus powered Ravenous Squirrels, and it didn't matter.
So what does matter? We know that the Trail of Crumbs can be a consistent source of card advantage here for Ichikawa.
Well, so the things that matter, Yuuki Ichikawa has on his side of the battlefield here, right?
Okay.
So you see Butter being sacrificed here for the cat, and then the Trail of Crumbs triggers, and he will just continue to get ahead on cards. And then with the Meat Hook Massacre, you're getting more drains every single turn than what Toru Saito can do.
Yeah, we're going to get used to these interactions. 2 Cauldron Familiars for both players, 4 ovens between them. Meat Hook Massacre kind of buoying the life total here of Yuuki Ichikawa. Popcorn's going to go in the bin to this first Cauldron Familiar, but we could see more.
Yeah. Cat being sacrificed here. Maybe sacrifice some Milk Duds here.
I'm honestly thinking about the clock already, Paul. Like you said it before we even started, but this is going to take forever.
Yeah. Time is a real factor here, for sure.
These players have to be aware of that.
And you know what's funny? Is when these players were interviewed, what deck do you not want to play against? Many of the food players just said the mirror for this reason.
That's right. That's right. And this is why Cauldron Familiar sacrificing ice cream. Once again, it's going to be back on the battlefield. And everything just keeps on looping like this.
Yeah.
It's kind of miserable. It's also hard to figure out, right? Like this is
Right.
not easy mode for our players either.
Well, it's one of those things though where I mean now it's pretty clear that attacking with creatures is not going to work. So at the very least, you just go, okay, well I'm just going to drain you every single turn and draw cards, drain you, and maybe I find more cat ovens than you, so I can drain you out quicker than you can kill me. That's basically what they're trying to do.
Yet as we watch, it's 25 to 21 between these two. Fried
yep.
chicken goes in the bin to that Cauldron Familiar, but still the loops continue.
Yeah, and hamburger coming back into play. Did we do hamburger? I don't. You know, Marshall, this was kind of fun, but now I feel like with 4 ovens in play, this is. I'm running out, man.
You're not.
I'm running out. I scoop. I tap out. This is.
I didn't even get to unload the pad key Mao on you.
Oh like, my! What yeah, I mean, I just had lunch, but I'm getting hungry after this.
Yeah, no kidding. Same.
Okay.
Yeah, this is incredible. There is now a 40-40 ravenous squirrel on the battlefield.
Hey, that's not a magic card, but pretty appropriate here. Call to the feast.
Paul took his call to the feast on this one.
Oh man.
Really curious to see if this Trail of Crumbs can be the difference. You know, that's the thing that's breaking parity here. The Mihawk Massacre to a point, but
okay.
Oh, 2 Trail of Crumbs is real business here for Ichikawa.
I mean, Yuki, he's got the life total advantage. Now you have the 2 Trail of Crumbs. Just got to be careful you don't deck yourself. Admittedly, I'm not too well versed in what happens when this is the board state, right? I mean, the game just goes on for so long, and although Toru hasn't been able to find Trail of Crumbs, he's still been able to sacrifice permanents to the squirrel, draw some cards, and again, 3 Witches Oven with the Cauldron Familiar.
Yeah, that's kept Saito's life total very high. He's still at 18. Ichikawa, thanks to the Meat Hook Massacre, finds himself at 29, and now we've got the full Trail of Crumbs.
I think we're supposed to be excited about this Trail of Crumbs, right?
Okay.
So
I'll join you then. Wow, a Trail of Crumbs off the top for Saito. Now what happens?
All the meatballs. Okay, so and now we have Meat Hook Massacre 2. So now we have Meat Hook Massacre on both sides. Trail of Crumb.
Clear away 2 plants, 2 Cauldron Familiars. Can he get the squirrel with it?
Lots of cats, lots of ovens.
Looks like no.
I can't imagine
he only
a squirrel will
one.
die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he gets the plants.
Meatball Massacre, says chat.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I mean, we've had some time to think about some of these food combinations, so good work, everybody. It's a team effort. Glad that we could be the inspiration here. Okay.
Yeah.
This is
Things
another
are happening.
squirrel. I mean, maybe one thing that can happen is one player draws more squirrels than the other before the other player gets all their cats on. I don't know, Marsh.
It's interesting because, you know, even if that were the case, it only needs to get up above the life total of the other player.
Right. And so now we have 2 big attacks coming in. Yuki, however, can return the 2 cats, but doesn't have active ovens here, right? So these are just chump blocks here with the cats. Now, granted, Yuki's still drawing 2 cards off of this exchange because we have the Trail of Crumbs.
Yeah. Needs something for these ovens. But the goose is probably ideal here as it gives you a food straight away.
Yeah, or Trail of Crumbs number 3, which
Oh goodness.
I mean, at this point, you just assume both players can kind of draw their deck, and you're just really limited by how much mana you have available to you. I mean, Toru's looking pretty decent here now, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's been able to fight and grind through the fact that Yuuki was the one who had the Trail of Crumbs online first, so at the very least, you have to imagine that this is back to a roughly even game state here. Trying to figure out what it's going to take to have us move the advantage bar moving forward from here.
Yeah, this matchup does lack a clear mirror breaker, right? Like there isn't just the one card that you draw and all of a sudden it's over.
Marshall, I figured it out.
What is it?
The moment the clock shows up on one player, you can move the advantage bar to the other side, I think. Right?
Oh, okay. We can just track it directly to the clock.
I think that could be a line.
That might be the difference in the mirror here.
Well, I'm just curious how many cards are left. It looks like both players still have a decent number of cards left.
Oh, that's great news.
Okay. That's,
well, I'll tell you, Ichikawa will be the one to run out first, but if he can find the tools to win the game beforehand, that'll work out just fine for him.
That's, what is that, 6 triggers for a sacrifice?
This is really starting to test the dexterity of our players. Like, you have to, you know, keep it moving.
Yeah, the higher APM player. Oh!
Yeah.
Toru, got less than 15 minutes on your clock there, friend.
All right. Ichikawa moves into the lead.
Okay, and we're now going to see Meat Hook for 1, not 2. Interesting.
Okay.
As there is a goose in play.
Right.
Huh. Is that why he's upset here?
Maybe so. You can see him kind of talking to himself and
like,
doesn't look particularly happy about it all either.
Right. I mean, it's probably not a gigantic mistake, all things considered, with the number of permanents here and stuff, but, you know, you still got to make sure you have those little edges. But hey, Gilded Goose produces a food every turn with 3 Trail of Crumbs. That's 3 extra cards a turn. Not like Yuki's going to run out, but hey, it's an extra chump blocker here too, potentially for these, gigantic Ravenous Squirrels.
Right, then that could really matter, right? These things do add up. Oh man, Saito, I think Saito just overlooked that doing it for 2 and is really kicking himself now.
Okay, so we have 2 cats to block with. But so Yuki can only block 2 of them, right? So can Toru get that last Ravenous Squirrel big enough for a lethal attack here? He might be able to. I mean,
get it from 8 to 30?
That's probably too big of an ask, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But he at least gets to force through some damage.
Yes, that is progress. Non-lethal progress. We'll take it.
Non-lethal progress, but progress nevertheless.
Wow, 54-54 is that squirrel.
That's a big squirrel.
That's like a commander-sized squirrel right there.
Yeah.
Okay, one familiar's back.
Okay. So
somehow Ichikawa found the 4th Trail of Crumbs.
All right. So remember, as there's a Meat Hook Massacre on both sides, basically anytime a creature dies, you can just ignore the text on the massacres because they cancel each other out.
Okay.
Unless somebody goes down to 1. In which case the timing of when you sacrifice may matter.
Right, because you may be dead before you get to gain your life. Fair enough.
And
Wow, this board state is incredible.
and hey, if you're Toru, he's trying to set up a similar turn next turn, right? He's got another Meat Hook Massacre. So one thing that Yuuki would really like here is just a third Cauldron Familiar, right? Just to make sure that he can block all 3 copies of the Ravenous Squirrels that are in play.
So what if Saito had gone for 2 on that Meat Hook Massacre and still had the fatal push for one of these cats? Was that the difference? I mean, it seemed like it was so close. He got in for 11 there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if he could have used that 1 mana differently.
Mm-hmm. He is tapping out effectively every turn.
Yeah, and Toru absolutely has to win this game now.
You're saying that because of clock?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the clock. Because if he's down this one, and let's say this ends when he's down to 10, winning 2 games in a row in this mirror, I mean, maybe the sideboarded matches changes things up dramatically. Right. But if it's anything like this, good luck. All right, so that's big, right? So now you have the third cat with the 3 ovens in play. So even if Toru does go Meat Hook Massacre to kill all your familiars, he'll still have 3 familiars available to block the Ravenous Squirrels.
Wow. Here comes the Meat Hook Massacre once again for Saito. At least to temporarily clear out the chaff. Which would be the ghast plus the 2 familiars that are there.
Right. And Toru sacrificing his own cats here for food. Yeah, I mean, is there a way that Toru can find a way to just keep getting these cats off the board? Do you need to look for other shambling ghasts?
Because you're just looking for a window, right? One turn window.
Yeah, but then there's also this squirrel that can chump block too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's grown already to a 5/5, but it's dwarfed by the others. 58-58, 30-30, and a 14-14, and this isn't even done yet.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, this is not lethal here from Toru. Not this turn, at least. And I'm not entirely sure if that Meat Hook Massacre accomplished too much. Right? If this was not the attack that he was going to use to go for the win, but you know, I think there may also be a little bit of that time pressure here, looking to try to make plays and close out this game, while he feels like he has the edge because he's the one that has the lethal squirrels here available to him.
That's right. Cauldron Familiar number 1's going to come back. Then number 2, then number 3. And look at that. It's going to be a concession here from Saito.
Wow.
He just could not get through for any damage. And both players are smiling at how absurd that game got. What did that squirrel get up to 61 power? I mean, what in the world? Let's just say it doesn't fit in the oven anymore.
I mean, and if you're Yuuki, come on. I mean, he was on 2 lands for like 6 turns.
No kidding. What a win for him. Wow. Did you see him doing pull-ups there too? He's like putting in the work.
Well, he climbed his way out of that one. So
he really did. He really did, Paul. Okay, so what can we do out of the sideboard? You see Maelstrom Pulse, Mystic Repeal, Outland Liberator, Mortality Spear.
Okay.
Dreadhorde.
So I do feel that the sideboard games will actually end in a more reasonable fashion because of those disenchant effects, right? The Outland Liberator will allow you to kill opposing ovens, right? Which means that it's more difficult to rely on Cat Oven as a way to chump block the squirrels.
That's right. People in chat wondering, you know, why the concession there? That game seemed like it was very much still going. It really is a clock consideration. Toru recognized, I am not going to be able to win this game. Like I could still play for a long time, probably just until maybe even until somebody gets decked. But that's going to take a really long time, and it's going to put you in a position where you may not be able to finish the match in a timely fashion. And when you take a deck like this, you have to consider those options. Yes, you hope that they don't run in, you hope that you don't run into that situation, of course. But this is a type of deck that can go very, very long in a mirror like this, and you have to be aware of it. And Saito clearly was.
No, I don't hate what he did there, because you have to look at that board state and assess, hey, what's your chances of winning this game? It looked like it was basically 50-50, right? How much longer is this game going to go, right? If you lose that game in 7 more minutes, you've lost the match.
Right.
Right? So maybe it's better after a sideboard where you do have access to killing Trail of Crumbs. You have ways to kill Witch's Oven. Perhaps you just have a better shot overall to win in these post-board games.
It's going to be Colony Garden to kick off the game here for both players, and now a decision for Saito on whether he'd like to play Trail of Crumbs or Deadly Dispute. And he's going to go for the Trail here. Looks like it's going to be the exact same start for both of our players. Colony Garden into dual land into Trail of Crumbs. Oh, the message was sent there.
Chippy attack.
I like it. And here's Mystic Repeal. This is going to shuffle that back into the library. That's a key sideboard card, and it's going to shut off the value plan. And look at this, right back at you, Yuuki Ichikawa. Yeah. What now? Take 0.
Now Yuuki does have the backup Trail of Crumbs here. Oh, and the Thoughtseize.
Yeah. You see the Deadly Dispute, the Outland Liberator, and the Meat Hook Massacre in hand here for Saito. And one of them's going to be gone. It's up to Yuuki Ichikawa to decide.
If Yuuki wants to lean on the Trail of Crumbs for card advantage, probably want to take the Outland Liberator. At the same time, Deadly Dispute draws you 2 cards, right?
Yep.
So if you want to kind of slow down what Toru's doing. The thing is, though, like, even if you take the Deadly Dispute, Toru still has the option of sacrificing something and use his mana and get ahead with the Trail of Crumbs in play. So maybe he wants to just try to get his own Trail of Crumbs going here. Oh.
Oh, he did take the Dispute. Interesting. So that means he's going to leave the Outland Liberator. And clearly his idea is, well, I've got removal for that, right? He's got a Fatal Push in his hand and the Spear.
Huh.
There's Trail of Crumbs now for Ichikawa, and well, Deadly Dispute immediately replaced. Wow. First things first, though, Cauldron Familiar into the red zone. No land drop just yet for Saito, so he may want to... No, he's going to go for the Outland Liberator here.
Oh, and not even sacrificing. Interesting. Maybe trying to just flip it and attack that way, and saying, "Hey, if you're willing to just spend your turn to cash in a Trail of Crumbs, go for it."
Looks like the Liberator's going to get sacked now, and this is going to prompt, of course, a response from Ichikawa.
Yeah, but this gave Yuuki a card.
Value here.
Right?
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah.
Huh. That plant token came in again. Ichikawa plays one way. Cauldron Familiar actually gets to connect. Here's Deadly Dispute. Maybe an Oven? No, it's going to be land here for Saito, but he does have Meat Hook Massacre. He can cast this for 1 and just wipe the board.
Right, as
get
that's not a treasure, that is a food, so we've evened it up, but I mean, if you look at Toru's side, he's the one with the Trail of Crumbs.
That's right.
And remember,
he's not the one with Trail of Crumbs anymore,
He's not the one with the Trail of Crumbs.
Mortality Spear.
Hey, interaction.
Gonna take it down. I like this.
Parody. Like, this is great.
This does play a lot differently. Unfortunately for Saito, another land off the top, so it's going to be Lurrus of the Dream Den into hand. He's going to pay the tax for that. And let's see if Ichikawa can do anything better.
Well,
He's got triple Fatal Push in hand, Paul.
Well, I mean, and also maybe it's a Mirror Breaker. We got to command the Dread Horde here.
Yeah,
from
that could be huge.
Ichikawa's hand. Now, it doesn't return enchantments. Doesn't return enchantments from the graveyard, but it does allow you to basically reanimate any number of creatures and planeswalker cards in all graveyards.
And it costs you life, right?
It does. It does, equal to the converted mana cost. And this was a card that was pretty heavily played back in the day in Standard.
It was.
As kind of a mid-range mirror breaker.
Right. You could bust that thing out if your life total wasn't under pressure, and you could get a huge swing in the game.
And Toru looking really nice here. But Yuuki does have the fatal pushes. He can sack the food to the squirrel, draw a card, not gain life, deal with the Luris. But I mean, Toru's got double Trail of Crumbs here, going with 2 food in play. Oh.
Ooh, now we found an oven as well, Paul. Card Advantage Engine's online, and look at that, an Outland Liberator gives him a little insurance plan as well.
Yeah, this is a lot of cards here now for Toru. I mean, Yuki's basically kind of all in on this Command the Dread Horde, but I don't even know how, I mean, you can get there's a Luris in the graveyard.
Yep.
Right? So, but Yuki is also down to 12.
Yeah, kind of clinging to that Ravenous Squirrel. Trail of Crumbs is going to start churning through the library. You see a land go into hand here for Saito. And here comes the Liberator.
Okay.
Well, with the exposed Liberator here, I guess a Fatal Push is nice.
Yeah. I mean, no enchantments to kill on Yuki's side.
Right? So just kill a 2/2. Yeah. That's another card in the graveyard also.
Right.
You know, when's go time here on this command? Because, you know, Yuki has to be very aware of life totals here as well.
Right. I mean,
and
that
I
Meat
think
Hook
you'd
Massacre.
like to have one of those Outland Liberators on your side.
Yeah. How many are in the graveyard right now? Is it just the one?
2? I think 2.
There's 2. However, he does not have the mana to activate them this turn.
No, they're going to have to just sit. But there it is. 2 Outland Liberators hits the battlefield here for Yuuki Ichikawa.
Yeah, so Toru, if he can find a Meat Hook Massacre here, I think that's might just be game. Very close to it, certainly here.
There's also Maelstrom Pulse, one of for each of these players in their sideboards.
Triggers
that
here.
Would be nice too.
Okay, so he found Trail of Crumbs number 3.
Okay.
Oh, and it looks like, is this the, yeah, he found Trail of Crumbs number 3, so that means he'll still have one in play if Yuki uses the Outland Liberators, but that's another oven too. I mean, how much damage are we looking at here? Yuki's down to 4?
These are down all the way to 4.
There's a Meat Hook Massacre. You do another rotation, that's an additional 2 points of damage.
This would be so big for Saito to pick up a quick win here and still have a full 8 minutes left on the clock before game 3. You can see how quickly he's playing.
Yeah, he has to. Okay,
he absolutely
that's another
must.
point of damage.
Hey,
That's
this is getting
point of damage.
really close. It might just be done, right?
Right. Cauldron Familiar down to 1.
And he says, go.
Your turn.
Your move. Liberator's gonna sack a Witch's Oven, and then the other probably do the same. If there's...
Okay.
But then he can just attack with the familiars, right?
Well, he's got... Well, you can't Fatal Push.
You cannot Fatal Push, and Luris has lifelink, so that takes that off the table.
Okay. Toru needs what? An oven here or a Phyrexian Tower?
Just a way to sacrifice. Those are the only ones. The disputes he can't hit off of Trail. Can he find a way to sacrifice right now?
No,
Gilded Goose isn't quite it.
No, wrong land.
Five.
Here?
There's Witch's
there
Oven.
There it
That's
is.
bingo. And he can play that one out and end this game right here and right now. Wow. So this is really a clock consideration though, right? Because now under 8 minutes on the clock, it looks like he's going to get cute here.
Oh, well, keep in mind, Yuki can sacrifice Luris.
Uh-huh.
So you got to attack. But yeah, I mean, this is going to do it here. Wow. And Toru, I mean, given how this game played out, these post-board games, he's got enough time.
He does.
He's got the time.
I'm very happy about that because, getting these games down to a clock is no fun. Yuuki Ichikawa says, okay, you got me on this one. Now let's head into game number 3. And I got to say, these are much more palatable post board where the people actually have answers, right? They can find, they're digging for something, right? In the first game, it was like, well, what is the end game? It's like, it's more of all of the things that I already have. It's just, can I do enough of it to actually get your life total to 0? And the answer was no for both players in that game. Here, there were answers afoot. You could find something to actually change the board state in a meaningful way. And we're going to have just under 8 minutes on the clock for Saito going into the third game. Yuuki Ichikawa still has somewhere in the 11-minute mark. So shouldn't be a problem there for our players. Nice win for Toru.
Yeah,
if you're just
absolutely.
tuning in, we're in our lower round 3, and this is a food mirror between Yuuki Ichikawa and Toru Saito. They're playing for the privilege of playing against Riku Kumagai, who awaits them in the lower final. The winner of that will move on to face Simon Gertzen in the championship match in just a little bit here.
Yes, Simon kind of as the end game boss with these 3 teammates all kind of trying to get there to the finals.
Tell you what, he sure doesn't like to see this matchup. So
right.
Whoever
no
it is that ends
what.
up getting there is like, all right.
Yeah, there's no, maybe I can dodge. There's no dodging. It's 3 food decks.
You're not dodging, Simon. I'm sorry. Ooh, this looks like a mulligan here for Ichikawa.
I think a mulligan from both sides, actually.
Okay. And let's see, Gilded Goose for Saito. That was after a Colony Garden there for Ichikawa.
They love it.
Oh, man, these guys are having fun with it. You gotta love that. Trail of Crumbs right after a Gilded Goose. It's the classic, Paul, the 1-2 punch.
And I wonder if Yuki's going to try to find a fatal push here to kill the goose.
He may have one there on the left part of his screen. Do you think that is, or is that a cat?
I think that's a Cauldron Familiar.
Okay.
Now, I can't, yeah, I believe it's a Cauldron Familiar.
It's a little bit obfuscated, but yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that is definitely Cauldron Familiar. There's Mystic Repeal. This is exactly what Saito did in the last game. It's really necessary. I get that Trail of Crumbs the heck out of here. Although we'll see that Saito also will get a little bit of value before it's gone. Gilded Goose now for Ichikawa, and he can follow up, with a Cauldron Familiar.
You got at least 1 card out of the deal here. All right.
Ravenous Squirrel and another Ravenous Squirrel. There's also a Phyrexian Tower in hand here for Saito, so maybe we could see the squirrels start to get out of hand. There's no oven on the other side here for Ichikawa, so cancel that order, Paul. There's an oven right off the top of the library. It goes with the other Cauldron Familiar in hand here for Ichikawa as well.
But if you're on Toru's side, you have 2 squirrels to 1
2 squirrels
oven.
and a Mystic Repeal.
Right.
So answers plus threats. That's kind of the most you can hope for here.
What are we seeing here? Right,
Seeing
squirrels
a couple of counters
growing.
go on.
Okay. Drawing some cards.
Yeah, it looks like Saito just wants to start growing the squirrels and get a card out of the deal. He does have a nice attack here, attacking for 6 damage. But thanks to the Witch's Oven and the Cauldron Familiar, 3 of it will be soaked up.
And Yuuki Ichikawa does have a Mortality Spear for 1 of the squirrels. So,
That's clutch.
so he's set up here, right? He's got Mortality Spear to kill a squirrel and Cat Oven to deal with the other squirrel.
He also has Cat Oven now.
Oh, he found a second oven. Okay.
He just ripped another oven, so he's actually got
big.
like a good primary plan and then even a backup plan in case this doesn't work. So really nice position here for Ichikawa to keep these squirrels at bay. Now that doesn't mean that he's going to win, but it does mean he's not going to get ran over by these 2 squirrels.
Right.
And you got to envy his position here with the double Cauldron Familiar, double Witch's Oven going. As right now, Saito, we could see his life total start to go down. Yeah, he has a Cauldron Familiar, but he doesn't have ways to keep looping it.
No, that's probably not going to do it. That does give him an answer to the Luris that Yuuki Ichikawa has in hand.
Okay, the Mortality Spear.
Yeah, but nothing
Will come
in
in
play
handy.
that he really wants to spear at this point.
Cauldron Familiar from the graveyard's going to jump into play. Drano. Then we're going to see block.
Yeah, the only one who's the one who's actually able to deal damage this turn is not the person with the pair of 4/4 squirrels in play. It's the person with the 2 cat ovens.
That's crazy. Players are at relatively high life. 18 for Saito, 17 for Ichikawa, but they move around a lot, the life totals. Colony Garden.
Yuuki not quite returning the cats just yet, as he does want to give himself the opportunity to top deck a Trail of Crumbs before returning them.
Okay, these squirrels keep growing, but that was the last free food line on the battlefield here, and this Cauldron Familiar, yeah, can go back to the yard, but now it's going to start costing mana here for Saito if he wants to use Gilded Goose to make food.
Ooh, and this is rough for him. I mean, get in for 6, but it does absolutely nothing.
Of course, one thing we always have to be aware of here, Paul, is that clock. You see it's creeping towards 5 minutes here for Saito. Now, he had the good start with the Ravenous Squirrels, but it does not look like that plan's going to work right now. If anything, it's actually Ichikawa who's creeping ahead with these interactions every time, even with the big attacks from these squirrels every turn.
Every turn, Yuki is the one draining Toru for 2 here.
Food token from Ichikawa, looking to conserve clock, and it's going to be Luris into hand now for Saito, but no graveyard to speak of outside of a Cauldron Familiar. And there is another land off the top here for Saito. Wow.
And as you can see, Ichikawa not running out the Outland Liberator there, wanting to wait to use it basically as a spot removal spell and wait for Saito to find his oven or his Trail of Crumbs before playing it out. You don't want to leave your creature vulnerable to Fatal Push or Mortality Spear.
Just consider it a 3-mana sorcery here.
Yeah.
Luris did hit the battlefield now for Saito. He used it to cast the Cauldron Familiar from the graveyard, but Saito's like, what am I going to do to get through this mess?
I love how animated Saito is here.
I do too.
He kind of understands the position that he's in, and he's like, oh man, every time you make me click, this is just taking another second off my clock. I need to find something quick.
Now, he does have Mortality Spear plus Mystic Repeal, so there are answers to the Witch's Ovens. Is there a sequence where he can get rid of those and turn this thing around, you know, put the cats on a clock, as it were?
Yeah, the Mortality Spear certainly can. The Mystic Repeal only can target enchantment, so can only kill Trail of Crumbs.
Yikes. And getting rid of one oven's just not enough here for Saito?
I mean, with all the food that Ichikawa has, at the moment, maybe not. But maybe this card...
Command the Dreadhorde for Saito. That is interesting. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot going on in the yard right now.
Right.
Again, clocks just crossing the 4-minute threshold here for Saito.
I mean,
Ichikawa at a more comfortable but still precarious 7 minutes.
I mean, Saito might just be interested in just getting that Luris back, potentially.
6-mana Luris.
Heal 6-mana Luris. Maybe it's better to wait.
Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen, right? Is there a way to get a bunch of these cards in the graveyard?
God, these squirrels just can't find a way to get through.
No, this is the same problem that Saito had in the first game.
Hey, you know, every time this exchange happens, it does take a little more of Yuki's clock than it does Toru, right?
That's true.
Yuki's the one who's got to make a food, sack your creature, bring it back.
Now Saito's discarding to hand size. Okay, there's a Witch's Oven. He's going to go for the Command the Dreadhorde here. Get back 4 creatures, though I assume that those cats will not be in the yard for Ichikawa.
Right. But still getting back 2 permanents from his graveyard, so that's almost like drawing cards with the Ravenous Squirrels that you have in play.
Similar.
And now that Toru's found that witch's oven, Yuuki is almost certainly going to run at that Outland Liberator here, and get that witch's oven off the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
Just like one overrun, you know?
Yeah.
Crater Hoof Behemoth.
I was thinking Berserk would be kind of a stylish way to put a little finishing touch on a game. Outland Liberator is going to hit the battlefield, but it's only going to be there for a minute.
Yeah. All right.
There it goes. Of course, the reason that they play Outland Liberator in a deck like this is because you can find it with Trail of Crumbs.
Right. That's why I was thinking you want a permanent that can help break apart these stalemates. That maybe gives your team trample or something. Ooh, Shadow Spear was suggested. That's not a bad one.
Okay. All right, this is big here. Deadly Dispute is going to sacrifice a cat, and are there answers for Saito? He still has time coming up on 2.5 minutes.
Okay, Saito now finding some cards here, right?
Yeah, 4 cards this turn. Anything good?
Digging.
Trail of Crumbs.
Really looking for ways to kill witches' ovens.
Yes.
Kill both of the ovens.
Then he can churn through the food there and maybe get a big attack in with the squirrels at some point.
I mean, he's drawn a ton of cards.
Tons of cards.
Just with the squirrels.
Yes. And now the double dispute this turn. He's just going to keep turning everything sideways.
Attack with everything. Go.
You know what? It's faster.
It is definitely faster. Now Arena will not ask you if you want to make a food token.
Yeah, that's even better.
What is he fatal pushing here? The goose? Okay.
He is.
Is he gonna mortality spear the oven, or? Oh, he also knows about the Luris, so that's why he has to save this spear.
Right, that's why he's kept it this whole time.
Yeah,
if you kill the oven, then it just goes Luris oven and you didn't get anywhere.
He's like, I have a mana. All right.
He is getting through for 3 here, Paul.
Yeah, and gaining some life here.
Yeah.
Gaining some life. Which is important because Yuuki was draining him for 2 a turn.
Is there a way to trade in life for time on your clock? Because right now it's 1:45 here for Saito.
Oh,
that is a resource he will not be able to get back. And there's Ravenous Squirrel now for Yuuki Ichikawa. Is he moving closer?
Oh, and he can kill the oven.
Oh yeah, it looks like Ikawa just did it.
Or the
just
trail.
Found more sideboard cards here. Yeah, it looks like it is going to be the trail. And we're in the mode where there's a ton of stacks every time. Replacement trail, but that's not it.
I mean, we got 1:20 here for Toru, and he's got to find a way to get damage through this cat oven here.
With 5 food already for Yuuki as well.
Okay, does that change something?
First is going to be trail.
Oh, but there's that squirrel in play too. You do have Mortality Spear.
Yes, you can point that at a creature if you need to. Yuki's at 29 life right now. Saito's down to 1 minute on the clock. Is there any way for him to find a victory? This is going to be a flurry at the end.
But again, you're not making a headway here.
No.
You've cleared the board, but you still have 2 cats.
Soak it all up, and with 5 food left over plus 2 ovens,
this is not...
I don't see how Saito's going to get the job done with only 55 seconds left on the clock, Paul. It's looking like Yuuki Ichikawa is going to advance to the lower final.
Yeah, Yuuki here just pure focus here, right? I'm going to try to give up as much of my clock as possible. Get these blocks.
Down to 40 seconds is Saito. Double chump block.
One thing I'll note is Toru's the one that's got a lot more resources available to him. If he had the time, he might have been able to pull this off, right? You got 2 Trail of Crumbs here, a lot of food. That'll maybe help you find more of those Liberators.
Yeah, and if you can get rid of those ovens, there could have been a way here. I mean, the squirrel advantage is very real.
All right, Village Rights is gonna find Yuuki some more cards here. Plenty of food to return those cats from the graveyard.
That's right, 4 already. Gilded Goose is another blocker and another food, and with only 30 seconds left, I just can't see how Saito can get through for lethal.
I don't either. This is, I mean, unless he somehow just finds. I can't.
Shatterstorm?
Yeah, I mean, just multiple ways to kill these ovens. He needs to find ways to kill the ovens that are in play.
Yeah, and right now he doesn't have any.
Right, because spot
Fatal
removal is
push.
not going to do it with all the food that's already in play.
He's got only 16 seconds left, Paul. Surely there's no way out for him at this point. Yuuki Ichikawa has outlasted Toru Saito here in our lower 3, and that's going to be the good game as Yuuki Ichikawa advances to the lower final, and that really summed it up perfectly. Oh, that was just too perfect. Oh, heartbreak there for Saito.
Like,
what a run for him. You know, he can pat himself on the back with an incredible finish in the tournament and, of course, a World Championship seat, but you saw the disappointment there for him.
Yeah, I mean, Yuuki Ichikawa just chump blocking his way to victory. And,
yeah, I love the end. You know, one of them's like this and the other one.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that was the exact same look after game 1. He's like, I got away with something. I stalled long enough where I forced my opponent to concede.